everyone. Welcome to the Motivation Academy podcast number 8. This podcast is going to be about stress and anxiety, and I wanted to talk about stress and anxiety and kind of how I deal with it a little bit, and examples of what I've done, but also to help those out there who may either be experiencing it right now, or maybe you have experienced it in the past, but you're really sure how to deal with that. So a lot of us have stress all the time. Some of us deal with stress on a daily basis, and sometimes stress can come in many forms. Sometimes it's something small, like I missed an email, or maybe it's work-related stress. It doesn't always have to be anything big necessarily. It could be maybe my kid got a C on their report, and I was expecting at least a B or an A. It could be maybe I have a headache, but I'm not physically hurt, or I'm not seriously ill. It doesn't always have to be anything big. It can be small things. Well, we deal with these things on a daily basis. How we deal with them determines how our body responds and how it affects us mentally. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to post this question to you. Can changing how you think about stress make you a healthier person? The answer is yes. When you change your mind about stress, you change your body's response about stress. So paying attention to your body is important. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Ask yourself a series of why questions. This will help you dig deep and uncover the real problem that's going on. When we experience stress, our breathing increases. More oxygen enters our brains, and our blood pressure increases, and our blood vessels constrict. Stressful situations can actually force us to become laser focused. There's been many examples of this that I've experienced personally in my life where that's exactly what happened. When you're, for example, raising kids and things happen that force you to shut down your previous portion of your day and start dealing with whatever is being thrown at you, it forces you to start thinking, okay, what needs to be resolved? Do I need to go meet with one of your teachers? Do you need help with your homework? What is it? It forces your mind to switch gears. When I served in the military, it was not uncommon on the flight line to have to switch gears on a regular basis, and you can at times go from, hey, everything's all nice and calm and quiet, not a whole lot going on, into suddenly we have this situation to deal with, this emergency situation that requires our immediate attention. So life can do that to you. What you have to do is you have to pay attention to your body. You want to ask yourself those questions, and when you do, it will force you to start thinking about, well, I wonder what's causing all this. Because when you're forced to be laser focused, it's almost like life is forcing you to think about what's causing this and how do I deal with it? How can I deal with it? How you think about stress matters. We can turn stressful situations into opportunities to rise to an occasion. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about what stress is and what happens to the human body. And I've done some research on this. I spent time online looking into this myself. Not because I'm bored and have nothing better to do, but because I was trying to help myself, much less anyone else for that matter. I studied this over the years using the internet as a research tool. And here's some of the things I've learned. There's a hormone in the brain called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a neural stress hormone. It primes you to do things to strengthen relationships, for example. It enhances empathy and makes you want to support others. It's as important as the adrenaline that makes your heart pound. It not only acts on your brain, but also on your body. One of its roles is to protect your system from stress. It's basically an anti-inflammatory built into your human body. It helps heart cells to regenerate. Bet you didn't know that one. So, one way to use stress as your friend is to help others. Now you're probably thinking, why would I treat stress as my friend? Well, At first, you're not going to think that, of course. But you can actually turn the tide on how stress is affecting you personally. Now, there's going to be situations where you have to, where you can't always be proactive. I always encourage people to be proactive. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's an emergency that happens. You have to react. I get that. I've had to do it many times myself. But if you do have the chance to try and be proactive, to try and maybe, if you want to think of it as react in a positive way that's going to help you. That's why it's important to understand these things. What's really going on in my body? What's going on in my brain? Why does this happen? How do I deal with this? Okay? Again, this is about stress and anxiety and how we can help ourselves and how we can help others, because helping others is going to help us in return. So, helping others is going to help you decrease your levels of stress. Here are some examples. In my lifetime, raising a family, serving in the military, and raising my kids as a single working parent, as a single working dad, actually helped me deal with the immense stress and anxiety of personal loss and tragedy, and dealing with the fact that it was all on me and I had to do it all by myself. There was no one else. So how did I deal with that? Or how did that help me? Well, the answer to that is, well, I was laser focused on not only daily living, but also the act of raising my kids. Oh, you need help with your homework. Oh, you need me to talk to your teacher. Oh, okay. You need me to go to a PTA meeting. You need me to take you to baseball practice. You need me help with your music lessons. It forces by focusing on what they need. It relieved me of having to think about what I need or what I can't have, but I would like to have. So it took the focus off of me, put it on someone else, which switched gears in my brain, which fired off the oxytocin, which in turn ended up helping me in a simplistic way. That's the easy explanation. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a licensed clinical anything. I can't advise you clinically, and I can't advise you legally. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm just a guy who has experienced a lot of the things that a lot of you out there have experienced throughout life, and of course, raising a family and that sort of thing. So I'm just sharing with you my knowledge and my life experience in hopes that maybe this information will help inform you and help you become aware of some things, and maybe in turn that will end up helping you as a result. I also helped my mother over the years too. My mother is she's almost 90 years old now. She's of the World War II generation, and over the years I've helped her with buying her groceries, paying a bill, whatever the case may be, helping her with her car. Anytime you help someone, whether it's your own child, whether it's a sibling or parent, or even helping a stranger. Maybe you helped a stranger, maybe helped them fix their tire. Maybe they had a flat tire on the side of the road. Maybe you gave them $5 for gas. Whatever the case may be, anytime we help others, it helps us in return. So here's another thing you might want to think about. When you want to work toward a goal, for example, your brain sometimes convinces you not to try because you might fail. This happens to you in social situations as well. Have you ever been to a party where you felt out of place and uncomfortable? Haven't we all? You always want to try and find someone that's there that you know, right? Why? That's natural. We want to gravitate to those that we know. What I do in situations like that is I find someone I do know and I chat with them for a little bit just to kind of ease the initial tension of being in a room full of people I don't know. Then once I feel a little more comfortable, a little more calmed down, then I'll try and connect with other folks. This method can also be applied in the workplace as well. You can even do that in the workplace. Anxiety is another emotion that we all deal with on a daily basis, but it can actually help us if we allow it to. Anxiety itself is slightly different from stress necessarily. It's they can happen at the same time. They can happen at different times. Here's an example of how anxiety can actually help us. Think of this, and now you'll be familiar with this. You've heard this before, I'm sure. If you're hiking along a mountain trail, you come upon a bear. What's your natural instinct? Well, your instinct is to want to run and get away. It would be for most people. This is your body trying to save you or help you. Of course, it's never a good idea to actually run from a bear, but you can never outrun a bear. And as soon as you start running, they're going to see you as a threat. So the thing to understand with that example, of course, is not the bear necessarily. It's the fact that your body is responding that way for a reason. It's trying to help you. So the stress or the anxiety, though it may be an emotional and a chemical response occurring inside, is actually a good thing. So how do you deal with that? Okay, well, train yourself to compartmentalize. Don't just suppress it. You have to deal with it. If you don't have time at the moment, set it aside for when you do have time. Maybe at a quiet moment at the end of the day. Maybe when after the kids go to bed, maybe you can turn TV off or whatever and just kind of sit and think to yourself. Again, that's when you have time. I know all about what it's like to have a career and have family and do it all. I did it, okay? And I did it by myself. Learning how to channel that anxiety into action that allows you to take control can serve to reduce or eliminate anxiety altogether. Research shows that people who think they're in control of their lives have less anxiety. So I looked something up on the internet recently, and I came across a link, and I clicked on the link because it looked really interesting. I never heard of this person, so I read up and did a little bit of homework because it caught my attention. There's a saying from an author by the name of G.K. Chesterton. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly. So, for example, let's say you're trying something you've never done before and you think, oh man, I might fail. I don't know if I want to do this. I'll just go ahead and do it. If you fail, so what? You'll figure out a better way to do it next time. Or maybe what it is that you're trying isn't necessarily going to harm you physically or cause a problem for you or your family. Maybe it's just something you're trying. Maybe it's a method to do something. And you do it and you think, well, okay, that didn't work out so good. Well, think about a way to do it better. Excuse me. Come up with a better way to do it. Use this as a coping strategy. You can always improve as you go along. If you have a panic attack, for example, here's something you can try. Forgive yourself for anything and everything. Just let it go. This will give you a greater compassion toward yourself. Another coping mechanism to try is having a purpose and a meaning in life. We need to know that someone else is depending on us. Those are the things that help us deal with stress and anxiety. Whenever we feel that life is no longer worth living, that's life's way of telling us life is still expecting something from us. Okay? I'll say that again. Whenever we feel that life is no longer worth living, that is life's way of telling us life is still expecting something from us. So don't give up. Doing things for others will help you bear almost anything in life, no matter what it is. So embrace the anxiety and acknowledge it. Then start to peel away the layers of what's causing it. Then deal with it using methods that work for you. The method one person uses may not work for others. Only you know what that is. One way to do that is to write it down on a piece of paper. I've actually done this myself. When your brain sees things on paper, you can begin to see a pattern, especially if it's something that's been bothering you. Once the pattern is identified, you can then create steps to resolve it. Once you create a plan of action, the next step is to act on it. List the reason and the step to be proactive. Maybe it's maybe you're having trouble with work. Maybe you're having trouble with a boss at work. Maybe a coworker. Maybe it's an issue with a friend, a family member, or a friend, or something. Create a step-by-step action will allow you to feel more in control. Because until you do that, you probably won't. This will reduce the anxiety. Now imagine yourself living this solution. When you visualize things in your brain, you'll begin to develop the ability to deal with it the next time you come across the problem. It will get easier over time. Imagine yourself carrying out the plan as well. Visualize this in your brain. Now here's some examples of what I mean by that. When I was in high school, I ran long distance and I loved it. It kept me healthy and it was fun. And I actually ran a mini marathon that was 13.5 miles long. And as I was training, and I added more and more distance to my runs, until eventually I went from 3 miles to 5 miles to 10 miles, and then of course 13. The closer I got to the day of the actual race, I would spend more time visualizing myself actually crossing the finish line. This helped me overcome the anxiety of, well, what if I crash? What if I get to 10 miles and I just can't do it anymore? Or what if this, what if that? Well, what if is the anxiety emotion, okay? All right, here's another example. When I trained in martial arts, I would visualize myself breaking a board or sparring with another student, okay? I would visualize my hand going through the board, and that would help me overcome the anxiety of breaking something that I'd never broken before that I knew was going to be difficult, because the instructor would tell me this is going to be increasingly more difficult. The darker the board that you break, the harder it gets. You start with a white board and you end up with a black board. And the darker the color, the harder it is. And then I also would break wood boards. Now the boards, of course, don't mean diddly squat out on the street. It doesn't mean anything. And when it comes to self-defense, it means nothing. It's nothing more than a confidence builder, which you need when you're training in martial arts and self-defense. You have to build your confidence. That's part of the whole journey, right? But I would visualize myself doing this. I would visualize myself sparring using the skills that have been taught to me, and I could visualize myself succeeding in a match, and it worked. It really made a difference. So imagine yourself in the moment as though you're creating a story. Imagine yourself solving the problem. There's things you can do outside of the mental to help you deal with the stress and the anxiety. A couple of tips. One of the most important things you can do to help yourself with stress and anxiety is helping yourself physically. Okay, what I mean by that is exercise. It's been proven that exercise is crucial in not only maintaining our physical health, but also our mental health as well. Let's face it, folks, human history is replete with proven strategies that keeping fit keeps our minds and bodies healthy and happy. We've all seen this in professional athletes over the decades, in all kinds of sports. You ever wonder why it is that a professional athlete is physically fit and trim and smiling and happy and has lots of energy? You ever wonder why that is? It's because they exercise. When you exercise, and I can tell you this from experience, when I ran long distance, I am breathing in so much volume of oxygen that oxygen is going to my brain. When I'm done running, I'm not only feel fantastic physically, I have a natural high, but it's a good kind of high. It's the kind of high that I could laser focus on anything right now. I could take a test right now and ace it, because it increases your mental acuity and your ability to focus and think clearly. Why? Because you had this huge volume of oxygen dumped into your brain. And it really does work. It really does work. Now, here's another thing too. When I trained in martial arts, I was also hiking in the mountains. Okay, I did both martial arts and I went hiking in the mountains because it was fun. I enjoyed it. When I trained in martial arts, it kept me physically fit. But then when you add in the mechanism of hiking in the mountains, it also kept me physically fit. It got me out of the city, away from the stresses of the city. And as a result of those two things, both of which, of course, are forms of exercise, and oxygen in the brain and all that, it kept me healthy. And when I stayed healthy physically, I always felt better, and I felt like I had very little, if any, stress in my life at all. Why? Because I exercised. We're not supposed to be living isolated lives. We're not supposed to live in caves and never go anywhere. We weren't meant to be like that. Human beings have been outside. We've done things physically since the dawn of the human race. We're not supposed to be isolated. We're not supposed to live static lives. So if you get the chance to try these mechanisms, to try these methods, the next time you feel stress or anxiety, think about some of the methods that I've suggested. Try and get a little exercise if you can, if you're not currently doing it. Even if all you do is walk for half a mile. Anything that will help you deal with and cope with the stress and the anxiety in your life. And remember, life will always deal you a blow somewhere at some point in time. Always remember, never quit, never give in, never surrender. Thanks for listening.